Hello, Gabe.
Hey, Levi.
Nobody else is on the call right now. You're actually right on time, down to the minute, too. That's impressive. Impressive.
Yeah,
Good job.
yeah, I was doing some errands today. I was just busy.
So I've just been sitting here. I've actually been kind of like reading through this little book that I found,
Oh, okay.
Citizens Rule Book.
What's the name
It
of
has
it?
the Bill of Rights, a jury handbook, a little summary of the Communist Manifesto, and some other stuff like that.
What's the name of that book again?
So I've just been kind of messing around,
Yeah, Levi, can you hear me?
flipping through that because since nobody's on the call right now.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Not even Frank is on right now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe by me not doing the call last week that kind of threw people off. They thought that the call wasn't going to happen anymore or something.
No.
But whatever, we're here, so.
You have me muted.
I need to get in touch with James because I'm ready to start doing the PowerPoint. And now that my kids are back in school and summer's officially over and everything, like things can go back to normal. Because, oh yeah, you want me to, okay. All right, I see.
Unmuted.
Gabe.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. No, I was saying, what's the name of that book you're talking about?
The Citizens Rule Book.
Okay. Wow.
It's just a little thing. It's a little pamphlet style book, and I know that they give these out for free from a lot of like Patriot groups and stuff. And like like say you order like a water bottle from InfoWars or something. Sometimes they'll give you one of these. And I found this one in the post office. So I picked it up and I wanted to read through it and stuff. But I mean, so far it's got some. It's so far so good on it, But I'm only into like the first few pages though.
Do you have like a link of it, or it's just like a hardcover only thing?
Well, I'm sure that they have it online, but it's just a little book I found in the post office. Yeah.
It's funny.
And this was the kind of thing I was talking about getting for when we were on the phone, and Steve was talking about getting copies of things like the Communist Manifesto and the state constitution and other things like Federalist Papers and things.
Yeah.
This kind of thing is almost exactly what I was talking about. It's really small. It looks like it's pretty cheaply made, but it's just black and white, and it's just a bunch of good information,
Oh, I see. Yeah, this is Frank, I think it's Frank, John, and Michelle, they was working on the PAC handbook. I have to send mine, look it over real quickly and send it to Frank, highlight it. But the handbook that's what you're saying, right? It's kind of like the handbook almost.
I'm guessing. I haven't really read through that, but this is basically the Bill of Rights, and it is a little bit of information about jury duty and about like the power that the jurors have, and then also it's got a summary of the Communist Manifesto. It's got the entire Constitution in here, and then other little stories and stuff too, like quotes and things from people like, Thomas Jefferson and William Penn and little stories and stuff. So it's pretty interesting. Like Jefferson's Warnings, that's one of the names of one of the chapters, and there's a glossary here too. It's Section 1 has jury duty, you are above the law, and jury rights, the law of the land, the Ten Commandments, the Communist Manifesto. And Section 2, has Patrick Henry, some stuff about him, more stuff about jury, William Penn, Thomas Jefferson, different things, like stories about them, I guess. And then there's the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, toward the end. And it's like a really small, like pocket-sized book.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna probably read through it. I think it's kind of weird because I found this thing in the post office, and I picked it up and was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna read through this, when I'm eating lunch or something like that. And then I ordered some stuff I ordered some supplements and stuff from like InfoWars.
Yeah.
Because that bone broth supplement they have is actually really good. The caveman bone broth drink. And, like I can drink one of those. I can drink one, dose of that in the morning with my breakfast and have like a banana and then like seriously not hungry for like another 5 or 6 hours.
Really?
But anyway,
Oh.
so I got some of that stuff and it came with one of these little books in it. So I think that whoever set this thing down at the post office, maybe they got it from there.
I really need to
I think I have 2 of these right now.
Can you do me a favor? Can you take a photo of it? Because I was at the post office recently, and it's funny. My wife, she was telling me that, because she said, why don't you use this as a meme for example, the 18 and 25, the selective service. I say, yeah, let me pick that up. Yeah, I say, yeah, I might do something with that. It's funny. And you went there and you found that Citizen Handbook. That's interesting. Could you send me a photo of that? Because
I just now snapped a picture and I'm sending it to your phone right now.
Okay, yeah. I'll look at it shortly. Hey, we could, if you want, right now I'm sending a reminder. I'm going to start tagging people. A reminder. Did that last time. And a few people call. And I just want to just bear with me. Just send a reminder to everybody. We can still do the call if you want. There's some stuff I need to talk about as far as the I want to talk about the Confederacy and how is that I was having an interesting conversation with my wife, matter of fact, about the people in the that support the Confederacy. They don't get it. A lot of stuff that sorry, my throat. They're missing a very big, important piece of the puzzle, and that is that they're federal citizens, and they don't. We talk about people from various different age groups, but people they talk about the monument. They talk about sign a petition, and I'm like, you have really no rights, no standards with this government. I even sent invites about the as far as the laws, basically stating that the United States, any government, including the United States, is foreign, and and it's basically seated by the U.S. citizens, and figured that would ring a bell to some people, but they don't get it. I'm gonna be on kind of like on top of it a lot. I guess these
9 times out of 10, you're right. Like people just either they don't get it or it's like they hear it and it doesn't really like click in their head. Like they can understand. They're smart enough to understand the sentences that you're saying, but they just don't understand that there's this barrier, this like invisible barrier that they just don't get. They can't understand it because they can't touch it or see it or anything. Like the fact that they are a United States citizen means that they are residing in a state. They are foreign to the state technically. They have their allegiance to a foreign entity, to that state, and so therefore they are a foreigner in a foreign land, and they are trying to put other foreigners in positions of control in that land. And it's basically like, and I like to use analogies because a lot of times people can understand analogies a lot easier.
Yes.
It's just like if I picked up 50 of my best friends and I had enough money, let's just say hypothetically this would work. I got 50 of my best friends. We all moved to Libya or Saudi Arabia or someplace like that. And then we don't change our status or anything. We just move there. And we're physically there. You know what I mean? And then we go and we start chanting and saying, oh, bring down this person. This person's corrupt in the government of Libya or in the government of Saudi Arabia or whatever. And you're standing out there with signs or whatever, and you're saying, this is wrong. This person's corrupt, or this person's bad or evil or whatever. And it's like you're talking about a Saudi Arabian, and you're in Saudi Arabia, but you're not from there. You know, if they would look at you and they would be like, "Get the hell out of here. We don't care what you think."
And that's the problem. I you know, and this is just to share a little bit. You know, as I was doing my errands before I head over to the cafe, I was just talking to my wife that I don't know if I'm pretty certain it's an ego thing, or if it's something that I'm comfortable where I'm at, and that's really it. But I was telling her that, you know, people are wasting time.
They don't know that they are, though.
I know that.
It's kind of like, you know, Jesus said when he was on the cross, he was like, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." I mean, it's kind of like everywhere you look right now is like kind of like that, you know, because people are purposefully misguided away from the truth. And so you can't really blame them for having like accepted and digested all these lies and having it, you know, ingrained in their thoughts and not being able to think beyond that. When you hit them with something, when you hit them with the truth, and it's so far removed and so far different from what they know that they thought was true, they're either gonna be confused, they're gonna be upset, they're gonna think you're lying, they're gonna even if they understand it and they say that they understand it, then they're not upset with you. Do they really understand it? You know, do they really?
Yeah.
There's so few people that are willing to actually go through steps to do something about it, and then you have people that are afraid to stand up and say anything or whatever because imagine getting confronted. Like for instance, for me, I went to the DMV recently because I wanted to go in there and in person, and like hand in my voter registration resignation or whatever you call it, or like rescinding my voter registration.
Yes.
Because I wanted to be sure that somebody got it, someone official got it,
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I was trying to explain to the person, hey, yeah, like, so I renounced my citizenship. Oh, and then their first question was, well, where are you a citizen of now? And I was like, well, my primary allegiance is with my state, and they kind of were like, And I was like, well, because Virginia is a constitutionally guaranteed republic. So, and it has its own constitution and everything. And they were kind of like, oh, okay, whatever, like they didn't seem to like want to argue about it or anything. Like maybe they just didn't really understand what I was talking about. But, but still, it was like for me to go in there and have a conversation with somebody that's kind of like in a official position in some sort of in like a state agency.
Yeah.
It was I was a little bit nervous. Even though I wasn't. I was able to say what I needed to say. I wasn't like bumbling and stumbling and everything, but it was, it's a conversation that I'm not used to having yet with people that are in these sorts of positions,
Yeah, a lot of these people are that work in the states. They're just there for a paycheck. They're not educated. Most of them.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're good people. Like I could see them down the street at a barbecue or something, and like we would probably have a great time playing horseshoes or something together, and talking or whatever. But I mean, in that one respect, I mean, they're just like everyone else. They just don't really know. They don't really know what they need to. What most people need to.
Yeah, no, they're no. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're decent people. It's just that they don't know the depth who they're working for. They don't realize that the state is occupied by foreign agents. They just don't know that. I mean,
Fred, they don't realize that they actually are one of the foreigners.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's the thing. When you tell somebody that, they'll be like, "What?" They look at you like cross-eyed, like you just called them a bad name or something.
Mm-hmm. Levi, I don't know. I mean, I tell people I might post it messages on my wall, Facebook. I say, I'm not really much different than anybody. I've been to public school. I don't have a law background, and when I first read the TRA, I accepted it. I mean, I questioned his government since the 90s, for example. Started losing trust when the election in 2000 election with the Bush and Al Gore.
Right, yeah.
A lot of stuff that's been going on, especially from New York and the local politicians, just the game between the left and right. And I'm like, these people, the folks in the office are really playing with people, but they just don't know that. And it just took generations of grooming people. Exactly. I mean, if you destroy the families, okay, the household, and you dilute the education as far as the truth and all that, because obviously the schools are owned by the federal. I mean, people, they only going by information, what they was told. And as far as people in the Confederacy, I say maybe 98% of them, if they didn't get their research through school, it's basically been passed down from their parents. And I say maybe 95%, they was told half the information, maybe a few. I would say maybe a few, but they don't have the tools maybe far as correcting my status. Far as, for example, over here, Title 22, it tells you foreign relations. It tells you that the Secretary of State, they basically acknowledge far as the several states. I'm trying to read this real quick. I'm sorry. Several states are foreign in the United States, even though the governments are seated by the federal citizens. And I've been laying this out with the.
And you
with
said
the
that was in Title 22.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Title 22 USC 2659. It's titled Foreign Relations and Intercourse. And it lays it out. It says Secretary of State shall procure from time to time such of the statutes of the statute of the several states as may not be in office. That's just how it's worded. Several states are foreign to the United States, even though the governments are seated by the federal citizens. And the United States even recognized this proper allegiance under the de facto system. So I went on and, I just tell people, like, it went on and say that this fact of law may be codified in the Title 8 of the United States Code, Section 1101A21. I mean, so this is how I've been coming at. I'm playing around different ways to approach people. If I feel a little bit confident still. I feel like I'm getting people to think, and maybe they may not respond to these messages, but if this is what it says in the United States Code, and they feel free to research themselves. I mean, it's there. So, I mean, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on the Confederate page and really challenge their ego. And I don't care. I can't really care if people going to like it. I'm not going to obviously insult people. I'm just going to challenge their ego. If you knew what the Confederacy stood for, you wouldn't be a federal citizen. And I have to mention to them that the representatives, we don't have the representatives. I'm sorry, my throat is kind of hoarse a little bit. I don't know why, but we don't have a representative in fact in office. If I'm saying this correctly, I'm sorry. Just my throat. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just going to have to be really on it and tell people exactly. At some point, it's going to give in. I mean, I think it's a guy or woman, but from the Confederate Broadcasting, me and Steve, we reach out to this guy, and I believe it's a man. I'm not sure, but I asked him 5 questions about the Confederacy, what's the difference between a democracy and a republic, and all that. Anyway, he answered. Steve saw the comments, and he pretty much got it, and. So I constantly send invites to PAC calls every Tuesday, just about. And he responded. He told me, thank you. So I said to him, or her, I said, I hope to hear from you tonight. But Yeah, I'm going to have to lay it out to people. Say if you truly want to defend the Confederacy or the Southern heritage, you're going to have to basically look at the information I'm sending, which is backed up by law. The United States have to abide by international law to separate yourself from federal if you want to choose to remove yourself from the political system. If you want to protect the monuments, the state's going to have to be back in power. Yeah.
It just reminds me of kind of another analogy, like a super, super simple analogy is like you got this group of people and they're out there and they're like almost like they're at a sports game or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we love the blue team. We love the blue team. You know, down with the red team. We love the blue team. Blue, blue, blue all day. Blue, blue. But then they don't look down and realize they're wearing red clothes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a super simple analogy that just came to mind, you know, when you were talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And about football, I used to be. Let me tell you, I used to be a huge football fan. I was a Giants fan. And I slowly got tired of watching sports way before I ran into PAC. But when I understood, as far as the history with the Roman Empire, as far as the people preoccupied with the sports and the military and the economy there, the Roman Empire just collapsed. So you know the States is a replica of the Roman Empire, and you know. And I tell people basically the codes, how the United States, how they use the military, to why the military is heavily advertised. I don't have the code on top of my head, I'm sorry. But I lay it out to people, you know. I mean, now I understand why the military is being used so much with sports. It is a false patriotism or self-righteous, but it's all programming. And I'm like I said to you before,
yeah.
I'm no different. Look, I'm no better than anybody. Okay, the difference between me and some people out there is that I decided to be open. I guess maybe when you start to question things like and not give a damn if you're kind of like crazy to everybody. I questioned a lot of things growing up, a lot. I could tell you far back that in grade school was still propaganda about why America is the world's leader. Like, what makes us better than the rest of the world? That was my thinking. I didn't say nothing, but I questioned that. Like, am I better than someone, for example, in a foreign country? Why do we call countries third world countries? Why do we have to be on top? And I realized in public school they brainwashed us into this thing, into this dominance as far as economics and military. And I realized I started to put the pieces together. But the thing with the TRA, it really fill in the gaps on a lot of things, a lot. And the reference,
yeah, absolutely.
The reference in the book is like on point. It's really on point.
Yeah.
So that's just to make the story end of it. That's the reason. That's how I accepted the TRA. I kind of spent a lot of time laughing when I was reading information. Not that I was upset. I just like, wow, this is amazing stuff.
Well, when the connection is made and you're like, oh, wow. Like, holy cow, wow. Like, it's almost like, just an intuition type of thing. You just know that something's up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for me, one of my big things that kind of relates to your story, it's similar but not exactly to the same subject, but it's about banking. Yeah. And I had a job. I started working really young because I just always was really ambitious and driven and stuff. And so I had a job. I got paid. I had a bank account. I put my check in the bank. They say to wait a day or two before you can spend it. So I'm like, okay, a couple days go by. I'm going around. I'm with my friends. We're skateboarding, whatever. We get a sandwich. We get a drink, this, that. Just going about my day. And then like a week or so later or something, I realized like I'm getting all this mail. I'm getting all these overdraft charges. Well, what happened?
Wow.
Turns out it was like 10 days after I put the check in there. 10 days after, they decided to take it back because something was wrong with the account that the check came from initially from my boss.
Oh,
So
I see.
somebody had hacked his account somehow and took a bunch of money out that he didn't realize. He wrote me a check. I deposited that check. The check cleared. I spent most, if not all, of the money, and then I had like a pile of overdraft charges because they decided to take all the money back. And then suddenly I'm with zero in there when I had 300 or something. And then I was just like, dude, that is so messed up. Why would you guys, I'm only like 15 at this point.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Crazy. Yeah.
I'm like, why would you guys let me spend this money if I didn't have it? That didn't make any sense at all to me. And then they want more money from me. And I'm like, I'm 15. I'm working my first job. I'm getting paid minimum wage. And then from that point, I was just like so upset. I was so upset at this whole banking system that I was like, dude, this is some sort of a joke. This is some sort of a con game or something. And from that point on, I was like, I'm never going to deal with the bank again unless I absolutely have to. And ever since then, I keep my money with me most of the time, unless, obviously if I have like a lot, I have a safe,
Yeah.
So I keep my own money, and we only use the bank when we have to. My wife has a bank account, and a lot of bills have to be paid over the internet nowadays, and a lot of different things need to be taken care of online, and so we have to put money in the bank when we want to take care of something. And basically that's how it is. And I never had a credit card. I never had any debt. I never had a bank account that was just in my name except for that one. And I had a joint bank account with my wife, but I was taken off of that when I did my status correction. I took myself off of it, and I took myself off of all my registration for all my vehicles and everything.
Yeah.
Because we have a truck and we have like a grocery getter, and then I have my little sedan that's like my little gas saver, and that's that car. The little car is the only one that we have that's not registered, and it needs a little bit of work. But once I get that work done and everything, then that's going to be my car, to get around in and stuff. As a national, But the other cars, they're still registered. My wife, is just pretty much doing everything the same way. Because basically, you know how it is. Like we don't really have everything nailed down exactly how everything needs to be done, and there's some things that are kind of still up in the air. Like, not that it's impossible to do, but that nobody has written a manual on how to do it yet.
No. The 14th Amendment wasn't legally how do you call it? I'm sorry, my throat. Right. Wow. The 14th Amendment wasn't legally installed, whatever, and it just after a while, decades passed by, it just became law, and people say, well, the 14th Amendment doesn't count, it's not even, doesn't exist, but the system does use it. It does. I'm not very knowledgeable about the 15th and 16th. My main research is the 14th.
The whole thing about it is like there's that saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And that basically means, like, it doesn't matter that the 14th Amendment was passed through force. It doesn't matter, because that's what people are doing. That's what the states are doing. That's what everybody knows. That's the momentum. You know what I mean? Yes. You can't just have one person come along, and the 16th Amendment is the big one. Oh, the 16th Amendment wasn't properly ratified. That's the one that has to do with income tax. Okay?
All the amendments.
And isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that the income tax one comes right after the citizenship one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, the 16th Amendment, people will say the same thing about it. Oh, it wasn't. That's why they can't take taxes from you legally. Well, if you weren't a, United States citizen, then you would have something there. But since you are, that's what the whole thing about that one quote, I'm going to butcher it, but it says, the citizen has submitted himself to the two departments and so must pay, the penalties of each or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's a voluntary thing. You have voluntarily submitted yourself to it. So therefore, 16th Amendment, not questioned. just like the 14th Amendment,
Can't
Section
question
4
the debt.
says you can't
Yeah.
question the public debt.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
so there you go.
And the United States de facto government, they don't have to pay the debt, and that's why the national debt clock keep climbing up.
Yeah, and that's like, to them, I think that's like a badge of honor. They're like, great. They want to see that number go as high as it can.
I mean,
because that just means we're ever more under their control, ever more in debt all the time,
and
which is one of the biggest, which is probably one of the most important planks to the Communist Manifesto.
And you know the whole thing too. I want to mention this before I forget. The whole thing for years I've been hearing these politicians, regardless left or right, one try to do a tax cut and all that. I'm like, it's just ridiculous. It's completely BS. They tax cut this and then they're gonna raise it up some other places that you're probably not aware of. I'm like, look, I mean, it's as long as you're a U.S. citizen, from my knowledge, it's part of the deal, paying taxes. If you don't want to pay income taxes, whatever, then you have to correct your nationality. You got to separate.
Yeah, you got to consider.
Exactly.
And that's one thing too. Like I would say to people, like someone on tax time comes rolling around or whatever, or even people that just bitch about the government.
Yeah.
I'll say, well, you don't have to be part of it. And then Stockholm syndrome kicks in immediately, and they're basically like, oh, that's un-American, or oh yeah, you sound like a terrorist or something.
Brainwash.
When I talk about not being part of the federal government. And I'm like, well, you either are going to change something or you're going to shut your mouth, because otherwise you just are sounding like you're whining. If you want to stay being a citizen, then stop complaining.
Tax protest.
Just deal with everything.
The system leaves people at tax protest. That's what it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, It's I guess for us, we kind of see past this and what we know now. We just have to keep plugging away and keep educating people. I mean, I had one guy. He wanted to correct his nationality, and but the person, person's in disability. I told him this. I said, if you're in disability, you're gonna have to think this over. Far as you want to correct your nationality, because I told the person straight up, not everybody. It's unfortunate, but not everybody is able to correct their nationality. It's just not.
Yeah.
And this is how the system kind of intertwined with people, and it's unfortunate. But I'm pretty certain, Levi. I'm still learning. I don't know everything. Well, I know a lot compared to back in last year now. But I could say this. I'm pretty certain when we start to put more things together and more of us correct our nationality, you already did yours. Earl did his. We have a couple of state nationalities. I mean, and this stuff is still new to the system as far as no one really came up and said, hey, look, I'm done being a U.S. citizen. Because we have to educate these people. I'm pretty certain there's going to be other remedies that's there for people, for example, that they need to have some sort of benefits or something, or being
right. So
maybe
like
be
an
compensated.
older guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like say like an older guy that was in the military or something, and then he started to kind of wake up, but then realized, oh man, I wasted 20 years of my life in the military, and now I'm 55 or something, and now I can't now I can't live without my benefits or whatever, because I've got my leg got injured or something in a war, or now I have a lung problem because of some kind of gas or some vaccination that the military gave him or something. So now he's like in a dependent position.
Yep.
Unfortunately, but his mind is in the right place. So yeah, I mean, you're right that there's got to be something for those people to do. It's just it's really going to take like some pioneers, someone that's in a position like that to kind of try to weed through that stuff.
No, of course, definitely, and like I said, I'm very certain that there's a remedy for that. Because we have to understand the federal, they have to create, whatever it is wrong, they have to create a remedy. It has to be. I just can't sit there and say, oh, gee, you're screwed. But, maybe at the time, the person is not able to correct their status. at the time, but down the road things could happen, and I'm just gonna keep reaching out to people, and there's a lot of people that's able to correct their nationality. We want to get more business owners, or farmers. Reach out to the farmers. If the farmers knew,
right.
if more farmers knew what the stuff that we know, I don't know. Depends on the individual.
Yeah, like
they
those
will
people
correct their
actually.
nationality. Yeah.
Like those people actually probably see being part of the federal government, as being more of a burden than a benefit. Whereas a lot of inner city type people or whatever, or people that kind of troll around on Facebook and don't really have anything else better to do, those are the type of people that really love the system secretly, or whether they know it or not. They may say, they may be a Bernie Sanders fan and be like, I hate Trump, I hate the federal government. Then if you turn around and say, okay, well, you don't have to be part of it, and I can show you how. It's not illegal, and you don't have to move out of the country or something, but then they'll be like crickets, they're not going to get back to you on that.
I'm doing, I'm doing my best to understand people on certain levels, why, again, like you present proof, something to them, and they just, there's like a block somewhere, and I try not to get frustrated with people. I just plant the seed, tell people exactly what it is, and you're gonna have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a Democrat fan. I was believing this whole nonsense about the Democrats is for the middle class poor, all that. Hated the Republicans because they're for the wealthy. That's the game, and it's crazy that they're all part of the same system. I'm like, the divide and conquer thing is clever, because nothing's done.
Yeah.
Nothing's done.
And, and with regard to, like, planting seeds and stuff, things happened to me when I was younger that got me kind of not trusting the system, like that issue with the bank. And, I read Behold a Pale Horse. I don't know if you ever heard of that book, but it was Bill Cooper.
What's the name of the book?
Behold a Pale Horse.
It sounds familiar. I don't think I've read it, but it sounds familiar.
It's written by Bill Cooper, and it's probably one of the more, like, scarier books I ever read. It talks about the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and it talks about, how they want to dominate the world, how they want to dumb people down.
Rulers of evil sounds like.
The alien conspiracy and how they basically use, technology that's not known to the general public to make people think about aliens and believe in aliens and stuff, and they use that as a tool of control too. And they use drugs and stuff to, fund, dictators and things, and to, topple governments and whatnot. I mean, it goes into all of that stuff. I mean, I read that book when I was like 16 or 17 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was kind of awake, right before I got out of high school, and then 9/11 happened and everything, and then Bill Cooper got murdered, and so there was like all this stuff that was happening kind of real fast, And I remember kind of paying attention to this stuff, and I remember feeling like really like powerless about everything, and that I felt like there was no way out. I felt like we were all trapped and stuff, and that we were like locked into this evil system. And then years went by, and I kind of went back to sleep, because I just felt like I was beaten. And I understood that the system was evil, and I understood that the system was broken, but I was able to cope with it because, I was young, I was partying, I was paying attention to, base things, you know what I mean? Like things that aren't, higher thinking type stuff, and I was able to go back to sleep, in terms of like, my awareness of the political situation and stuff like that. And it wasn't until actually that, that my wife got pregnant with my daughter that I really got like shook back, I got shook back awake, and I started to really like pay a lot of attention to the food that we were eating. Yeah. Mainly because my wife was pregnant, and I wanted her to have the best, and I wanted my child to have the best. So I started really paying attention to food, everything else, and then it was just everything's so interconnected, So of course my attention shifted back into politics and stuff, and then after reading the Red Amendment and realizing that there was like this little hidden back way out, like you said before, like anything the government does that's bad, they got to do something to allow you to avoid it, or they got to do something to allow you to correct it, or something like that.
Of course, yeah.
And it makes me think of that. If you know anything about vampires, and you know anything about like the metaphysical laws or whatever, like in the mythology of vampires, you have to invite them into your house. You have to invite them in. You know what I mean? So there's like this little stipulation there. They can trick you, and they can trick you and make you think that they're good, and then you invite them in or whatever. But you still have to invite them in, and then in that case you can also banish them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's what I was saying. Is like the system is a vampire. It really, literally is. It literally is a parasite, and it is only still surviving because you let it. You know, and just like a vampire, all you have to do is realize this thing is sucking your blood, pull it off your neck. You know what I'm saying? Take it out of your house, get it out of there, and you can do that. You're allowed to do that. They expect you to do that, but they don't. They've gotten everybody to a point. It's almost like, the vampire system has raised everybody that like it's the host, like if it's the parasite. So it's raised the host to be too dumb to realize what's going on.
Yeah, it needs you.
That's exactly what's going on. It is literally this giant vampire that's like got its little tendrils on everybody, like sucking a little bit of blood out of every person.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the system definitely needs people, because without the citizens, the federal government can't operate. And
it literally is nothing. All it is just a theory that's written down on a piece of paper. Really, if there's nobody that goes along with it.
That's basically that, and that's basically what it is, And we got people that say, I have a few people told me recently that, I didn't consent. Yes, you did. Well, if you want to stay silent or not, you still consent. You're still a U.S. citizen. You have a Social Security. You have a driver's license. You participate in any fashion, income tax. That is consent. And it's the thing. Some people don't get it.
Right. Well, there's this band called Rush, like from the 80s and probably beyond. But anyway, one of the lines that sticks in my head is, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So that's your consent right there, just by complacency in sitting there,
Of course.
That reminds me, too, I wanted to read this. This is out of that little book that I found.
Yeah.
And it's just this little section here, about 2 paragraphs, so I'll go ahead and read it. Okay. It says, the purpose of this book is to revive, as Jefferson put it, the ancient principles. It is not designed to promote lawlessness or return to the jungle, but the ancient principles refer to the 10 Commandments in the common law. The common law, in simple terms, is just plain common sense, and it has its roots in the 10 Commandments. In 1776, we came out of bondage with faith, understanding, and courage. Even against great odds and with much bloodshed, we battled our way to achieve liberty. Liberty is the delicate area between the force of government and free will of man. Liberty brings freedom of choice to work, to trade, to go and live wherever one wishes. It leads to abundance. Abundance, however, if made an end itself, like that's your goal is just to have abundance, will result in complacency, which leads to apathy. Apathy is the let someone else do it philosophy. This always brings dependency. And so I'll just stop there. So, the materialistic sort of system or whatever that that we have, and it glorifies having, a pair of shoes for every outfit and jewelry and nice cars and multiple houses and pool and whatever, and all this decadent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if your goal is really just to have a bunch of stuff, then what are you going to do once you have all that stuff? You're just going to be kind of like, complacent. You know, what do I do? Oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
Now, don't really have any goals. You know, if you end up making it to that point, you know, and then eventually you get to the point where, you get to the point where you don't care, or to where your kids, they grow up being spoiled brats, you know, and then you worked your butt off maybe for something, you know, and then you just so you could give your kids everything that you never had. But that's the thing. You give somebody something, it takes away right then. You've robbed them of their motivation to do anything with their lives.
True.
Just by giving somebody, if you just give somebody something, it just completely right there. You just take away the motivation.
I see.
You
I know
know
what you mean.
So that's the weird thing. Like, by giving somebody, you're actually taking something away from them, but you don't even get anything in return. It's like you're just kind of like shooting them in the foot. You know,
it is a different.
Now, it's not
mindset.
obviously to say anything about like little gifts and things like that. I thought about you when I saw this coffee mug because it has a funny thing written on it or something. You know, that's totally different than if I was to give my daughter a car when she's 16 years old. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or to give my son like a giant inheritance or something like that when I die or something. You know, they should have to work for it too, because then they'll appreciate their things better.
Yeah, the whole thing, the way the system been implemented among people for decades is, you know, everybody's overworking. You know, you work whatever amount of hours a week, pay off debt to create more debt, and then yes, the materialistic stuff comes in. It's like, and people feel like, oh, I need to get the latest thing. It's like, for me, my mentality is, it's like, if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to buy something, but I don't have to buy it. And if I don't buy it, I'm okay. You know, and it's just constantly telling you, you need to have this, you need to have that. A lot of stuff, man. Levi, I've been questioning a lot of things for so long, between the consumer part of it and how the system and the holidays really full charge as far as how the holidays operate. Matter of fact, Bobby, one of the New York State National, he expressed on the Revolution Radio, Day 3, he gave a breakdown about people researching the origin of these holidays and how everything's tied with as far as the corporation, in my own words. It's interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised. You know, I mean, it goes hand in hand. You know, I remember when the economy was going belly up a little bit. You hear things in the news. The government is encouraging people to shop. You know, people don't shop. It's a big problem for the system.
Yeah.
And
that's so weird. I mean, they used to encourage people to save their money. They used to encourage people to save their money. I mean, now they tell people to go out there and buy.
Yeah.
And whenever you see the retail numbers are up, then everybody's like, "Oh, great, everything's fine again."
Yeah.
It's like you're still poor. You still all you have now is a bunch of crap that's made in China.
Pretty much. It's just it's a lot of stuff that, I mean, it could be very daunting about far as people literally getting themselves kind of like a 180, changing their mind 180 about it. It got to be somebody that's hungry for truth. Actually, before I say something further, we have 2 new callers I see here. I just want to welcome.
Well, one of them is Jason, and I think the other one's Angie.
Oh,
I'm not totally sure.
Oh, okay.
I recognize the 702 number, but I'm not totally sure. So, sorry, 702, if I didn't get that right. But I recognize both of those numbers pretty well. And Jason likes to listen in a lot of times, too. He might raise his hand at some point. I'm sure he knows. If anybody wants to know how to raise their hand, it's just press *2 and you can say something. But I think they're just having a good time listening in.
Definitely. Glad we continue on the call. I definitely gonna upload it. Definitely talk some good stuff here. I remember during the holidays when people was not really willing to shop. I think DC was trying to, how do they call it, tax rebate, or lower, or for example, people buy clothes and they don't put taxes on it. Like it's tax free.
Oh, right.
I'm like, that's how they hook you in into that. And
Because you're saving so much money.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah.
It's like it's so funny how it's like buy this and save tons of money because we could have charged you twice as much, but you're like, okay, well I could not buy it and save even more money.
I think a lot of people should definitely benefit if they read the Communist Manifesto. Give me a minute. I'm actually opening my TRA, and I wanted to read. I forgot the plank for the credit off the top of my head. Give me a second. I'm right just about it. Give me a minute. I'm just gonna read this real quick here. Okay, Communist Manifesto. Here it is. Okay. I'm looking for the credit. Here it is. Plank number 5 in the Communist Manifesto, 1848. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national banks with the state capital and exclusive monopoly. Okay, all right. And people think that the Communist Manifesto only applies for Russia. No, not really. Here in America, we call it the Federal Reserve, which is a credit/debt system nationally organized by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. All local banks are members of the Fed system and are regulated by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. And this is stuff that we deal with, and, I mean, I know
every single one of the planks is being used right now. Some of the ones that are a little bit weak or a little bit weaker that haven't totally gotten under control are like number 8, the government control of labor. That's not totally under government control. Government ownership of factories and agriculture. That's not totally, taken over yet.
Wait, what about what about job creation? Politicians always talk about job creation stuff. I mean,
right? Yeah, they wear it like a badge. I created all these jobs.
I just saw an MSN, and I barely watched. Believe me, I barely watched the news, but I saw a quote in MSN about the job market, the labor, far as the unemployment or the employment. Department of Labor had like a record high, as far as people getting jobs in July. I'm like, wow, that's pretty much part of progressive right there. Just basically human resources. You pay income tax, you work, you buy things, you pay bills, create more debt, pay debt to create debt, and buy stuff. It just keeps you in commerce. That's just what I'm gathering so far in this. And get people in jobs, but not changing anything. It's just to maintain the system for what it is, and people don't get it.
What's having a job? I mean, just think about that. Just having a job, that's good for somebody that like literally has nothing and they just want to get on their feet and everything. But like, what people really want to do with the American dream, so-called American dream or whatever, is to do what you love.
Exactly.
And to be able to not have to struggle just to get your kids fed and to get to work and get the basics that you need to stay warm at night and to feed yourself and stuff. And what ends up happening is, like you said, people just work and work and work to pay off debts. They buy things they think they need because they're actually just keeping up with the Joneses, or they just they want to have the my buddy down the street, he just bought this new car, so now I feel like I want one, or like that kind of thing. They end up working away the best part of their life, and they're feeling healthy, and they're young, and their bodies are working fine, and and their kids are young and stuff, and they work through that whole part. And then when their body starts failing them and they literally physically can't work anymore, then they take a break. Then they try and spend time with family. But guess what? What's your kid doing now? Working.
Exactly.
They're not going to spend any time with you because the cycle, And I'm not saying don't work, but I'm saying people's priorities are all over the place.
No, of course. It's like part of the whole servitude thing. It's just the whole work, like pretty much like the Matrix. You got people just pay off bills. They don't got time. I don't got time. I got to go to work. And I could say, I want to say a quote from Thomas Jefferson. It's like, I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. And that is peaceful slavery. I got a nice sports car. I got a nice cell phone, whatever, iPhone, whatever. Whatever it is, and everything's good. I just go and vote. And everything's all good. It kind of keeps you in that same status quo.
I wanted to, like a little earlier, something you said reminded me of how I came in touch with TRA, how I actually got introduced to the book and stuff.
Yeah.
And I may have told this story before, but basically my wife was pregnant, and I was doing a lot of research on different products and things like that, food and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where kind of my whole journey started, was just with little things like, I'm going to switch my deodorant. I don't want to use deodorant that has aluminum in it anymore, because I understand like aluminum absorbs into your skin, then it accumulates in your brain. It can actually slow neurological regeneration or actually cause neurological degradation and lead to Alzheimer's or whatever. And so that was the very first thing when I first started becoming conscious of the things I was consuming. The very, very first thing that I decided to change was my deodorant. And then it was other things. Then it was like, now we're going to only buy this organic milk or something. Or now we're going to, we changed one product at a time, and I started to think about things as a voting with your dollar. And so then I started to, that's another kind of vote, you know what I mean? And that's actually probably a more wholesome and a more powerful vote than like voting at the ballot box,
Yeah.
But vote with your dollar, because mainly, like if I wanted to buy a T-shirt or something, I wanted to buy a T-shirt and I wanted to know that, some 7 or 8 year old in China didn't put that T-shirt together, and get paid, 5 cents for that day of work. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that I was getting stuff that was, and it's very, very hard, especially when it comes to electronics. It's really, really hard, if not impossible. You can't find a cell phone that wasn't made in dubious ways in computers and all that stuff. It's
of course,
impossible right now. In this day and age, it really is. And so there's certain compromises that you have to make if you want to still interact with society to the standard that people are used to right now. I could go about and I'm off the internet now. I don't use electronics, and I'm going to only communicate with people over, mail or something like that, like snail mail.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably wouldn't be able to survive that way, unless I was really, interconnected with my local community and stuff. But anyway, what that led me to was this philosophy of voting with your dollar. And so I started to write paper about it. I started to write like an article about it, and it was showing some of the examples and how I started out really slow, and how I picked one thing and then another thing and then another thing and then another thing, until basically everything that I'm consuming has had some level of thought and compromise put into it. Okay, well, I can't find computer speakers that aren't made. Okay, well, here's these computer speakers. They're made in China. These ones are made in Japan. All right, I'm going to pick the ones made in Japan because those people are maybe treated a little bit better or something like that, or maybe they're voluntarily putting those things together instead of being made to do it or something. So I started writing this whole thing about it because I wanted to explain to people, it's really daunting when somebody has a realization and they wake up and they realize, man, everything is so screwed up. Like, all the products that I have are made by slaves, and the government is taking money from me that through income taxes or whatever, and they're getting bullied by their local government or something like that. And so they start to realize, but then they look at this giant mountain and they see this one big giant, huge problem. And they don't realize, if they look a little bit closer, that big, huge, giant mountain is actually made up of a big pile of little problems.
Of course.
And you can go through it one at a time, and you can look at each one, and then it doesn't seem like such an impossible task. You look at each one at a time, and don't worry about changing everything all at one time. Just look at everything one at a time, change one thing at a time.
Of course, definitely.
And then eventually, 2 or 3 years down the line, people are going to come up to you and ask you, "Oh, how did you do that?" Or how did you get where you are? Or, "Man, I look up to you because you seem so healthy," or "You seem so happy all the time," or whatever. Like now I have people, friends of mine, that they come up to me and say, "Man, like you're like a mentor to me. Like I just want to say thank you. You're inspiring," or whatever.
That's
And to me, I'm just like, man, that's like the best compliment I could ever get, because I'm not trying, I'm not trying to be like that and like have these people like say, "Hey, yeah, you're so great," or anything. I mean, it's not my goal at all.
Yeah.
But I just want to do the best thing for me, my family, and then, residually the people that are around me, my friends and stuff, and just, be living as an example, hopefully, and then have a, hopefully a positive impact on somebody. But so I wrote this whole paper out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To try and get back to my story, I wrote this whole paper out, and I started to edit it, and I was like reading over it a few more times and stuff, and then I bumped into a guy on just from cruising through Facebook, and I bumped into Jared Dallin or whatever, and he's still friends with Antoine, and he's still friends with some of the other people that are kind of like against PAC and stuff. But at the time, he was very much like with PAC, and he was helping to sell books and stuff, and he was, I guess probably communicating with LB to some degree. But then right around that time, like when I met Jared, then I started to meet LB, and I started to read the book and everything, and then LB had a problem with Jared, and then it was like this. Then that was like the very beginning of where I could see where there's like, wow, there's this. For some reason, these people don't work together. Was like how I was like thinking about it. I was like, why? It's crazy, but I mean, such is life, I guess. People, some people really think they got everything figured out, and they don't want to take advice from other people, or personalities conflict and whatever else happens, but I still trying to keep in touch with Jared a little bit.
I remember him. I remember him. Yeah. Jared.
Yeah, I'll chime in and I'll say what's up to him every now and then, because actually another little sort of funny fact that's off topic is my son and his son were born on the same day.
Oh, really?
And that was kind of cool because, like, I had started to learn about all this stuff, and I had been staying in contact with this guy a little bit, and I actually bought my first copy of PRA off of him. And then, it turns out, my wife's pregnant, his wife's pregnant, or whatever, and then, our sons are born on the same day. So
interesting.
That was a pretty interesting little thing there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wow. You never know how you impact people. I mean, me personally, I feel like I'm impacting people, whether they hurl insults at me at whatever I post in these groups or whatever. I mean, it's going to click. The truth definitely is going to rear people, and it's just a matter of the person's ready. I mean, how I ran into PAC is through, well, for me, I was in these, I think you remember, but I started off 2 years ago with this UCC strawman nonsense, and I was just about to leave the so-called movement, whatever. I just felt like, I just, my gut was just telling me, like stick around, but don't press forward. I mean, I filed my UCC. I did the whole thing with the process as far as the, what do you call it, how do you call that? Oh, God. Wow, I just go to show I just forgot a lot of that stuff, which is, I think, it's obviously a good thing. But I changed my birth certificate. Darn it, I forgot what they call it. Anyway, I was trying to claim something in a way, something that don't really belong to me. I was trying to get free stuff, or for UCC to put a lien on whoever. But I didn't go forward with that. I mean, I filed it. I filed my UCC, did the birth certificate, I sent the information off to the Treasury and to the IRS. And, but obviously God is...
What kind of response did you get back from that?
Well, I did a green card return receipt. They got it. Didn't get anything from them. But when I really believe that God was looking out for me because, I didn't like the idea that I'm trying to rob something. I didn't really quite understood deeper of the mechanism of the situation because I didn't really like the government. I was at the point. I mean, obviously, even then, 2 years ago, I just didn't trust the government at all. But I really felt like God was looking out for me because certain things I'm starting to see, people are still in the dark with the private trust, for example, with the UCC. People got in trouble. I gotten word from some people I don't know directly, gotten a threatened letter from the states about the UCC filing, and I advised the person to stop because I was starting that. I was at a point that I need to really not press forward, but I still hang around, and I was just about to leave the entire. I was about to close up my Facebook account. I'm like, this stuff, I just don't trust any of the process. But until I saw Jose, his comment, he don't remember exactly what he commented, but something that he commented about the history and as far as the United States Code, something that he stated. I wish I remember, but it got my interest anyway. And I just asked him, like, hey, where do you get this information, all that? We start chatting privately. And then when he mentioned about PAC, I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't know anything about PAC. I figured, let me just see what PAC is about. And then I started reading the white pages. And I starting to get to know people through PAC. I think Steve was one of the people that I sent a friend request. And then Frank. And then LB. I think you came maybe a month later, I think. But, that me and you hook up. But when I read the white pages of PAC and it was backed up, I right away knew this is different because a lot of stuff in the UCC strawman stuff was a lot of philosophy, a lot of snippets of information of whatever. Someone just blow up some bogus article about whatever, about people claim this and that. And I'm like, it didn't really convince me. But when I look at stuff at the PAC white pages, it's different. It has actual reference facts, and that's what pointed me to get a TRA. I didn't have the money at first, but when I had the money, I ordered it, and it was $60. It was the best investment I made, and I bought bulks of TRAs, sent them out to free to people, but with to learn a lesson, I feel like I planted a seed, but I just accepted the information right away. It has reference. It's something I was looking for a long time. You understand, Levi? So,
totally. Because I had this very similar sort of feeling about a lot of the information that I was seeing with different patriot, minded topics and stuff, where it just it was interesting, and I was paying attention to it, but it just didn't seem like the full truth, or it just didn't seem like it made total sense to me, And then when I read the Red Amendment, that was when all the experiences that I had leading up to that point where, I understood that the government, was corrupt, that they were using people as resources, and, I understood the whole thing about the Fed and how they use people to take out loans or whatever. But the whole thing that about income tax and about how people say, oh, the 16th Amendment wasn't properly ratified and stuff, like that sort of thing, the questions that were still there, well, why does it seem like they just can do whatever they want? Why does it seem like they don't follow the law? Well, it's because you're looking at the wrong playbook. You're just looking at the wrong place.
Exactly.
And that was where I was like, holy cow, that's where it all kind of came together for me. And I was like, wow, that's why. It makes total sense now. So instead of creating more confusion and more questions in my mind, like a lot of the other patriot theories or whatever that are out there. This one was actually answering a lot of really big questions that I had in the back of my mind for a long time. And the way that it was explained, like you said, it's all documented, it's backed up there's references. You can bookmark the page you're on, and you can go, on another few hours of researching some of the bookmarks that are in there, or, of course, in the beginning of the book, he's referencing other books, so you could, essentially you could put that book down and go read another book and then come back to it or whatever. But,
exactly.
Yeah,
everything that LB wrote in his book, everything is reference. Everything. The TRA is not a first time read. Like, oh, I got it. No, you got to read it a few times, but don't overwhelm yourself, obviously. But the thing is that it has like 600 footnotes, and I'm like, I don't know. If somebody supposedly claimed that they're seeking truth and stuff like that, then I personally feel you should be able to, like, okay, I'm really connecting with this book. Some stuff I may not understand yet, but at least I got the basics. I got the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning of it. And at least I know. I didn't look. 2-3 years ago, I didn't have no idea what U.S. citizenship, what it really stood for. I thought it was something like, it's something, maybe, I don't know how to put it in words, maybe something normal, like, it claims that I live here. I didn't have no idea anything about private law. I didn't know anything about private law. And the book explains about
one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that something you just reminded me about is that when it comes to people that are really seeking the truth, you got to come into that with like a humble perspective,
Of course.
Because you have to realize right off the very bat, like, you don't know everything. If you're looking for truth, then that means you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you might know some lies. That means you might know some information that's wrong. And that means you might need to actually try and change that. You might need to have an open mind and, be willing to change your mind about things when you are presented with rock solid proof and evidence and stuff like that, and know how to discern, good information, truthful information versus, rabbit hole type stuff and things that are just, less honest or something. Like you were saying about the UCC, how it seems like some of those people that are interested in doing that stuff are really, they're actually just interested in this large sum of money that they think they can get from accessing their private trust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
they think that they're going to have all of their problems fixed if they can just basically cheat the system.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Levi. Let me say this because I have a little bit more experience. From my understanding, you didn't really done this process, and because I've done it, I just want to say, because we have another caller here. There is no money to be claimed. There's nothing. The birth certificate is it's part of a contract as a U.S. citizen. It doesn't mean anything far as money. There is no proof of whatsoever. And people go on a Fidelity website. I've done that same stuff too.
Well, not in the respect that you can access the money.
Oh no.
But they do use the birth certificate and the certificate of live birth to show that they have like another. Yeah, they show that they have another unit, and then they say this is our collateral. We have here Federal Reserve and Social Security, like, we've given another unit a number, and now we're going to use that number. We're going to trade. We're going to take out a loan, and this is our collateral because the individual that uses this number is going to grow up, and they're going to work, and they're going to pay taxes. That'll help us pay this debt back. That's the whole way that the system works. A baby is born. They take the certificate of live birth or whatever, the birth certificate and the Social Security number, and that bundle, all that bundle of paperwork there, and they say to the foreign banks that basically control the Federal Reserve, they say, look, we had another person. we actually, how many millions of people were born this year? Look, we're making millions of people. We have tons of resources here. See all these people we have? They're going to make money. They're going to give us part of that money because we're going to tax it. And then, so let's have some of that money in advance now so we can go and buy some bombs, so that we can do your bidding.
And I want to add what you're saying too, the certificate of live birth and all that. No, the whole thing with the birth certificate, this stuff is to people want to discharge debt. That's what because the claim is that it's over $1 million in the birth certificate. People just discharge debt and all that, and it's really nothing evidence. There's no evidence to back it up. And people don't understand is that when they start to send bonds to the Treasury Department, and from these bogus copy and paste information on YouTube or some guru on Facebook, I'm like, they may not catch you now, but they're going to catch you eventually. And that's the thing. And I'm speaking from experience as far as doing this process. No, I never got in trouble, and I'm grateful for that. And I felt like God was giving me a chance, and that's why I was following my heart not to keep pressing on to this process. That's why I kept watching these people on Facebook. I kept watching. I was spending more time observing people. They trying to figure out what it is, and I'm like, and I just didn't feel right about it. But no, I never got anything back from the IRS. I discharged my debt. I did all that stuff. I didn't get nothing worked. And then you got the operatives and opportunists. They're gonna tell you things. They're gonna tell people that, well, you didn't do it right. You do it this way. People do this name change thing. I'm like, that is not doing a name change at DBAs, and some people think they got to figure out with the whole thing with the incorporated. I've done the incorporated DBA. I filed it, last year. That is completely garbage. You're putting yourself into another contract with the system.
Yeah.
if you want, and people don't understand about the private law system. If you want actual standings, lawful standing, you have to cut ties from the private law system altogether. All contracts. All of them.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, Levi.
So
let me finish. I just want to say this.
Go ahead.
People have to, you have to be straight with people. That means you're going to have to cancel your birth certificate, marriage certificate, driver license, bank account, all these things. You have to, it's like you basically cutting ties with Satan. And that's what I was telling my wife earlier. You want to be free? You want to enjoy your Republic of Freedom? You're going to have to break the contract with Satan. That's the deal. So I just want to say that part. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was thinking to myself, okay, so how did anybody come up with a number that this private trust is supposed to be worth? Like each birth certificate is worth, what did you say, like $1 million something or whatever? And then it occurred to me, if we just take, what's the national debt? National debt, let's just say it's $20 trillion, right? And so I'm going to break out the calculator, and I'm just going to divide it by the number of people that we have here that are citizens, so which is approximately 350 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, my calculator can't hold 20 trillion on it because there's not enough spaces. So I had to knock a couple zeros off. So I got, hang on, let me figure this out. So there's, okay, there's 6 zeros knocked off of it, 350 million. That would have, okay, so then that's only 350. So 20 trillion times, or divided by 350 million is actually, it's like 571 million or something like that.
Wow.
So I guess like that, they maybe they're doing some sort of like fancy math or something like that to figure out, oh well, if the if the debt is based off of all these people, all these U.S. citizens, then let's just divide the debt by the number of citizens, and that's what each citizen is worth.
And this reminds me of the A4V thing. Try to, man, some of the stuff, Levi, some of the stuff I forgot. I'm trying to remember. I guess because I'm reading so much of the TRA and all this stuff, actually the right information. There's some details I did forgot. So whatever. I would just say the basics. But as far as the debt, whatever you have obligated, you're gonna have to do what you can to pay off the debt. But as far as doing it that way, as far as trying to trick the system, I'm telling you, there's a lot. I can imagine there's a lot more people being put in prison that you probably don't hear, and a lot of people that maybe going to get put in prison or have some win or maybe knows a friend that's been put in prison with the UCC private trust or whatever. They're probably too ashamed to talk about it, But yeah, it's the system. The thing is, the system is allowing people actually to do this too. It's weird. It's like they want people to create this because people are belligerents in the first place as U.S. citizens, and now let's just allow these people to create this fraudulent contract, and we're just gonna just nabble, and people will fight. People will fight tooth and nail. Some of these philosophers, some of these know-it-alls out there on Facebook, for example, they got it all. I'm so I'm just going by what I'm learning what Bobby said. Do you have something to back up your claim? Whatever research you've done, and a lot of people don't. They're sitting there waiting for their debt to be cleared or put in their stuff. They put their car in a trust. That's another thing. They want to protect their asset. They want to put their car or put their home in a private trust. You don't know what you're doing, and you're tangling yourself in a huge mess.
And you're compromising all your things, the things that you're trying to protect.
Of course.
It's actually 57,142. That's it. So that's what each person, I guess, is worth, right, at this point. $57,142 and 86 cents.
You know what? It's actually a scam. It's this whole thing, man. It's just, LB was telling me about the private trust that is part of a sting operation, and it is. I know a few people on my friends list that's done it. That's in that open a private trust, and people want to avoid paying taxes. I've said this before, but like I said, you're gonna have to cut ties from being a U.S. citizen altogether.
Yeah, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to have to pay the taxes. They don't want to have to pay They don't have to pay their house off. They don't want to have to pay their car off. But they have all these things, and they accepted it. They accepted the benefit. They got to bear the burden.
Of course.
Simple as that.
That's the way the system works, and this system basically is designed to punish people. It is truly designed to punish people. I was going over the Day 4 Revolutionary Radio. John made a very good point. The system is designed to punish people. It just is, and people don't realize it. Mm-hmm. It all goes back. When you consent, you committed treason, and you rebel against your Republican form of government. And it's crazy. But for those that's listening, I wanted to quote this on the Bankers Manifesto from the TRA. But if anyone that's listening, you could check out the Bankers Manifesto of 1892 and the Bankers Manifesto of 1934. I won't read it. It's a lot, but because I know we probably have to wrap up soon. But the Bankers Manifesto of 1892 is just like what, 20, like 40-something years later, like a little bit after. Yeah, my Communist Manifesto was 1848. Anyone looks at the Bankers Manifesto, for example, of 1892 and the one for 1934, it is a declaration of war. It's obviously what a manifesto is from my research, and it gives you a layout what the bankers' plans are as far as the land and how they're using these so-called two-party system against you. And I mean, the stuff is for real, and people got to do their research on that. But the Red Amendment is highly recommended. There's a lot of information in there. I mean, people talk about they don't want to read, but they'll read a stupid redemption manual. I think it's up to the 5th edition. I'm like, I read part of it. It's crap. I mean, I think one guy asked me, "What's the difference between the redemption manual and the Red Amendment?" I just gave them the basics about what you get out of Red Amendment and the benefits of correcting status. He was on board. He said he's going to order the TRA. Great.
That's
awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
That's
yeah.
Great.
Awesome. So I mean,
get on it.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just excited.
So looks like Jason's got his hand up. Let's see what Jason wants to say.
Cool.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Levi. How you doing? How you doing there, Gabe?
Hey, Jason. What's going on?
I'm good.
I just thought I'd call say hello to you guys, and you're doing a fantastic job on the call tonight. And I just want to add a little something into what Gabe said before about how you used to love football.
Oh yeah.
I'm still into the sports thing, but it's my interest is fading pretty fast because I see the writing on the wall as well myself.
Mm-hmm.
How oppressive, communistic, totalitarian, police state like governments like the United States and Russia use things like sports to distract people away from what the government is doing to them.
Of course. Yeah.
And have you ever noticed that how in the Olympics, which two countries, well, we know the United States is a really big country, but I'm just stating the fact, which two would always win the most medals? It'd always be USA and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And China would be up there with them too, of course.
Yeah, China, exactly. And China itself also has, they're communist as hell. They oppress their people. They've been doing it for a long time. But there's nothing wrong. I think I've told Frank this. There's nothing wrong with watching sports and entertainment things. But what the problem is, what is wrong is that if this all you focus your attention on, and this is all you know, that's the problem. Too many people are too focused into entertainment, and America's never going to change until the people themselves change, and they start, like you said, Gabe, Levi, they start doing the research.
Exactly.
And too many people, they're just not doing the research. They're not doing the homework.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever noticed, and I always thought this was kind of strange, they always will do the national anthem, before sporting events and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, that's all well and good and everything. Okay. But then as it goes on, then what do they do? Like when I was at a hockey game with my dad once, and so of course you've got the two opposing sides, and so you got that sort of like tribal sort of mentality. They're like, oh yeah, we're two opposing sides, and when the tension in the room is like kind of at its height, and everybody is feeling very tribal, and they're my team, and they're cheering and all that stuff. They'll have like sort of an intermission or like a halftime or something, and they'll take a service member or woman, a man or woman or something. Maybe they were injured or something, and they'll put them on the big jumbotron screen, and they'll say, "Thanks for our service members. They are so great," or something like that. And then everyone's and that's just, it just boosts you with this like sort of rush of endorphins that you feel like, oh, we're on this super powerful team together. And I always thought that it was kind of sort of like a judo move where they take this momentum that's in the crowd, of like the feeling in the crowd of everybody being really jazzed about their team, and then they kind of channel it together and point it at the military.
Of course. Definitely.
Yeah, and then everybody gets all super jazzed about the military, and our military is so great, and support the troops and all that stuff. And it basically, when people say support the troops, it means don't question the wars. It means
exactly.
Don't question the bad decisions by the politicians and stuff. Now,
exactly.
If I was to support the troops, I would keep them away from wars. I would want to preserve their life. I would want to make sure that they had a good quality of life and a standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
But you were going with what you were going to say.
Yeah. And I used to be myself real gung-ho about supporting the troops. But after I read the Red Amendment, not anymore. We know what they're really spreading out there. They're not fighting for our freedom, because if the fact is, guys, well, you are, Levi, because you've corrected your status. But the fact is, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're not free. You are regarded as chattel, as property of the federal government. That's what you are as a citizen, and people don't know this.
Hey,
it's sad.
Hey, Jason. Hey, guys, I just want to add some of what you're saying, and I had to turn over at the TRA. Most of these kids that sign up, I see how the military is coining this thing about jobs. They're trying to replace more and more about, make it more exciting about like any type of quote unquote civilian jobs, and it's all for a paycheck. Travel, I got a paycheck, I got my family taken care of. But I'm just gonna read up this.
Of course.
Let me read up this from the TRA. The Patriot, one who loves, support, and defends one's country. We already know the United States is not really a country anyway. Mercenary, one who serves or works merely for monetary gain and hireling. A professional soldier hired for service in a foreign army. So we already know that the United States is foreign, and you're in the armed forces. It's right there, and you're getting paid. And
exactly. Those guys are nothing more, like Frank told himself. Those guys are really nothing more than useful idiot paid mercenaries.
Right. And even Henry Kissinger said that military men and women are dumb, stupid animals that are to be used as pawns in foreign policy. And that is his direct quote.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Hey, guys, I posted that.
NWO goon.
Hey, I posted that, whether a photo, or depends. I posted that in the Army and Navy and Marines and Air Force. Sometimes you could post photos, and some of them you can't. And I posted a quote. And it's right, I posted right there in the message thread. I don't care. I'm just trying to get people's attention. And one guy said, "You idiot." I'm an idiot. Okay, whatever. But the thing is that it's brainwashed, man. It's just completely brainwashed.
Yeah,
they get the kids young, and it's I'm sorry. Go ahead. I can go on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Gabe. I was just going to add a little more to what the sports thing with the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
The national anthem is basically kind of the same thing as with it goes right along with the what do you call it, the Pledge of Allegiance. You're basically pledging your allegiance to a de facto foreign corporation in the United States.
Right, and the repetition too is important. The repetition is important. They have to do
exactly.
Every time you watch a sporting event or every time school begins.
That's right. Exactly. And the people just don't know that you're pledging your allegiance to a foreign corporation that's oppressing you. Exactly.
You know what? It's right. Like, what do they tell you to do when you are going to, if you are going to sit in court, you're going to sit at court, you're going to testify. What do? They say, raise your right hand, put your hand over your heart or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then by doing the Pledge of Allegiance, how many witnesses are there? Right?
Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
Right? You're doing it in public. And by common law standards, you're doing it every single day. You know what I mean? By common law standards, I can get married in common law just saying that I'm married with somebody while I'm in public. And
exactly.
That's all it takes. And so if you get a bunch of kids together and you're basically making them repeat this declaration over and over and over again, and they're swearing to it with their hand on their heart, you know what I mean? Like that. That's exactly what you have to do when you do the process paperwork. You don't stand up and pledge allegiance to your state. But you get witnesses, and you do pledge allegiance, but it's in writing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it effectively is the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
And that just kind of dawned on me that, like, literally, the Pledge of Allegiance, it's legally binding, practically. You know, even
and
though
who was it written by?
Really know what they're doing.
Oh,
and they don't realize who it was. They don't bother to look up the person who was written by. It was written by a guy by the name of Francis R. Bellamy.
Yes.
And who was Francis R. Bellamy?
Yeah.
He was
a
socialist.
Salesman,
from Germany. He's from Germany.
A socialist.
Yes, and I believe it was him, and not Adolf Hitler, who founded the Nazi Party. Now, doesn't that should tell you something right there? That wouldn't that seem odd to any kind of logic?
If that could be proven, if that could be proven and documented, then that would be very, very revealing and damaging to the powers that be, I guess, at least here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be like, hey, Francis Bellamy started the Nazi Party, here's the proof. Francis Bellamy also wrote the Pledge of Allegiance, here's the proof. Boom.
Yes.
guys, as far as the kids, like I was saying early, the education system. A lot of the public school is basic education. These kids don't know Constitution. I didn't learn Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. I was going to school.
Neither did I.
I mean, so they don't know. They have no concept at all what the United States military is. The United States, the whole thing. They just got basic education, and all they going by is the propaganda that I have to defend my freedom. Against terrorism, the whole core of terrorism, all that stuff is, to me, is old. But the thing is that these kids, they want to go to college. They want to get the military is very clever. We pay for your college, we give you a job, you travel, and all that. But you don't understand that if you look at some of the Federalist Papers, and you look at the standing armies, that the Federal Army, no standing army should not go no more than 2 years. So the United States basically...
And it was supposed to be a volunteer army anyway.
Exactly. So, it's just committed treason, the Federal. But the only reason why the Federal is able to get away with this is because the Federal created citizenship through the 14th Amendment.
Well, there's no one to stand in opposition to it.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone they control,
Exactly. So, but
That's right.
This is how the Federal is able to interact with people. But see, the federal government went against its own constitution, the U.S. Constitution. They're not supposed. They're only supposed to deal with the Commerce and federal or the post office. But as far as people, no, it was not designed that way. They just did it. And like you said, no one challenged it. And it just became like natural, like, oh well, this is our government and all that. But the way they did it is very clever. But it took generations to actually brainwash people. I'm like, but I don't know. Hopefully it
doesn't take just as long to unbrainwash people.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I still feel I still think the college kids. I think they. I'm pretty certain that they're a little bit more easier to approach. Versus someone in a different age. But I don't know. It depends. Everybody's in their own path and whatever. I can't just, personally me, I won't give up. I'm going to start reaching out. I always reach out to people. It's just, it just feels like, man, it's like this stuff goes so deep as far as how the system is designed just to get people, just to enslave people in so many ways, man. Between sports, the economy, I mean...
Wow. There's tons of misinformation out there, Gabe.
That too.
Absolutely.
That too, because people don't want to be.
Well, we live in the world, and who's the ruler of this world? They say, the master of deception. We're in it. We're in it. Of course, we're going to be surrounded with lies and everything, and like every little piece of truth we get is like a fresh drink of water for anybody that can recognize it. So. When you have discernment, you know what you're on to.
Exactly.
But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah. It's been 2 hours.
I enjoyed having this conversation with you, Gabe, and thanks, Jason, for hopping in there.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I should have gotten in a little earlier. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. It was a pleasure. I got in. Sorry, I got in a little late. But I just got off of work and I'd forgotten to put my phone on me or tune into the call since I got done with work.
Oh, it's okay. And I also wanted to say, whoever that is that came in kind of late on the call, hopefully you come on next week. And if you haven't heard the normal presentation that we do here, then you'll like that too. So come on next week. Basically 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern time, and so on down the board. So you can figure out what time is best for your time zone that you're in. But again, it's 7:00 Central. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and just want to say good night to everybody that's on the call.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, Levi. Good night, Gabe.
Good night.
And good night, whoever else your person is.
Your line has been disconnected by the moderator. Goodbye.